brand spanking new. So it's cool to meet guys like you that have been doing it for a while.
Have you done any wholesale deals yet?
No, I'm like just starting. I don't even know, like, so if I could pawn some free advice, like, I've got the time. I don't even know where to find the deals. Like, I'm pretty confident I could find the investors, but like, where do I even start with the wholesale deals to find the properties?
Well, like, reverse engineer it. So who do you have to talk to put a deal together?
I've got the realtors, and I've got Zillow, and I've got the communities that I'm connected to find the investors.
Okay, so those are great sources for those are great third-party sources. But I mean, just think about the anatomy of putting a deal together. Give me the anatomy of a deal. What do you have to do?
Somebody needs to get rid of the house. So then I need to find the property. Someone who needs to get rid of the property. I need to find someone that wants to invest in the property.
Okay.
And then and then it's the in-between work the numbers. So agree on a purchase price with the seller.
Yep.
And then bring that to somebody who's either willing to pay the commission fee, or I think I could price it over and then take the extra.
Sure. I mean, every state's got different laws, so you got to kind of figure out. I don't know Florida. I've never done it down there.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of wholesale anymore. Back in 2008, when I started, I was a mortgage broker, so I did a little bit of wholesale back then. But I don't do it anymore since I got licensed. I just feel like there's an ethical dilemma between. I know realtors that do wholesale. I think you're overstepping some ethical boundaries there with your license. Yeah, that's my own opinion on it. But anyways, there's a lot of different ways to go around this. But I'm not a big fan of wholesale. I don't like wholesale because in the state of New Mexico, and I believe in the state of Florida also, it's a fourth degree felony to practice real estate without a license. Same thing as practicing law without a license. And because there's a lot of consumer protections that are in place. Now, wholesale falls into this gray area within the law because you are actually putting things under contract and you're selling your equitable interest in the contract. Right? So the attorneys and stuff that I've talked to hate wholesalers. And they have been working here in New Mexico. I mean, I would imagine that this probably translates to other states as well, because within the wholesale, there's so much meat, and they give all these contracts and all kinds of stuff. So when you sit down and you start to do a wholesale deal, if you create the contract yourself based off of something that somebody gave you, not only are you engaging in selling real estate because you're not the end buyer. You're acting as a broker to bring a buyer to the deal, right? Well, you're not a licensed broker. You've got an equitable interest in it, so you're technically selling your interest in it.
Right.
But as soon as you provide a contract that wasn't prepared by an attorney, you're now acting as an attorney. You're acting as a lawyer as well. So I sit down and I look at this stuff, and coming out of the banking world, it was huge compliance stuff, right? And being in real estate for the last 12, 13 years, we're constantly being bombarded with lawsuits, and, we're always trying to create a defensible position at the same time that you're putting a deal together. So we put together disclosure after disclosure after disclosure and tell everybody everything under the sun to protect ourselves against lawsuits in the event that we're ever standing in front of a judge.
Wow, I didn't know that the risk was so high.
So it's about creating a defensible position. So wholesale to me is unbelievably risky. It's really, really high risk because at the time that you find your seller, you're trying to wholesale this thing, so you have to buy this thing well below market. And you need to buy it and leave enough margin in there for somebody to come in and do the rehab on it, right? So in order to get a seller to discount the property to the point that it needs to be, there's not a lot of sellers out there raising their hands saying, yes, please take 60% of the profit off the table for me.
Yeah.
I'd like to sell this to you for only 40% of what it's worth.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people out there that'll do that. So there's all kinds of different tactics. You're looking for distressed home sellers. Well, in 2 years, they're not going to be distressed anymore. And if they find out, or if an attorney gets a hold of them and says, you sold your house back on this day, tell me about the situation. Oh, we're going after that guy. They've got 7 years from discovery on a real estate transaction to come back and sue you.
No way.
So you create a ton of, there is a point where those sellers are no longer going to be in distress. And when they're not in a distressed situation, that's where it starts getting kind of hairy. So if you're going to do wholesale, the way that I would go about doing wholesale is be a legitimate buyer and find investors that will fund your purchase so that you can legitimately buy the property, whether you find an end buyer or not.
Smart.
You know, because if you can't fund it yourself and you have to fund it with somebody else, you're walking this really, really gray area of being a realtor and creating documents and forms and legal documents and things like that. I mean, anybody can create a document, it's fine. But if somebody really wants to go after you and they really want to prosecute, they could potentially, I mean, you can use a napkin as an agreement in front of a judge. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem with it is that if they ever wanted to come after you as practicing law without a license, you got 2 strikes against you. And it's just, I don't know, there's just too many areas that, having done this as long as I have, I just stay away from it.